Hi, little babies. It's Dr. Meaty. I'm going over this news here for the day, and, we can trace all this trouble in the Middle East up to the Obama administration. Hillary Clinton was just wrapping up her term as Secretary of State. John Kerry came in, and that's when Victoria Nuland instigated the color revolution, where they took out the democratically elected president of Ukraine and installed their U.S. puppet. Now, this is just part and parcel for the Democrats, the party of war and taxes. But we look at all the trouble this has caused. Fighting a war that was not necessary to fight. It could have been handled diplomatically. But Obama, we're the sheep, Obama. We do whatever you want because you're Obama. Well, I'm a deplorable and an infidel. In 2015, 2016, I was watching videos of those ISIS freaks putting out their propaganda videos. They executed people in ways that you would not believe, that defy imagination. That whole group of prisoners dressed up in orange jumpsuits, and they had their hands tied behind their back. And they placed a bomb around each one's neck. Maybe 16, 17 guys. And they detonated the bombs all at once. All you saw were their heads flying off. Then you saw the beheading videos. The most sick thing I think I've ever seen. Now, I guess these guys are all hyped up on that methamphetamine called Captagon. Where they give them superhuman strength, and their emotions would be dulled and muted so they weren't afraid and didn't have guilty feelings after what they did. But as far as I'm concerned, when they die, God can seal them into a Campbell's soup container that's impenetrable, that's unable to be opened forever and ever, and take their souls, put them in that can, and then toss them to the farthest, most desolate place in the universe. And they'll be in that little can for eternity. They won't be able to quench their thirst. They'll be freezing in the deep, dark depths of space. And this would be a hell of a punishment for their earthly sins. These people have no souls. They're evil. And, we watched Trump come into office, and he got rid of ISIS in short order. They were no longer the powerful super killers that they had made themselves out to be. But ISIS and their heinous actions were despicable. So anyway, we had John Kerry in there, and he's not Mr. Environmentalist. Instead of working for world peace and better trade relations and helping each other out, the Democrats have gone insane. They just want to pick a war with anybody. They don't care if it's the Russians. They don't care if it's the Iranians. They don't care if it's the North Koreans. They just want to start a war. The problem is they think we're invincible, and they don't think about the kind of blowback such actions would have on the country here in America. I mean, it would be just unintended consequences. Now, supposedly a bunch of sleeper cells that have made it across the southern border. But did you know the northern border is more porous because there are fewer checkpoints? And these people can hike 20, 30 miles through the woods or the grassy prairies and get to the U.S. border and just come across. And then once they get into the states, they just mingle. And what these bastards are, these sleeper cells. They go into a shopping mall or a school or a university campus and they just shoot up everybody. Or a government building, blow it up. I mean, these people want to cause chaos and havoc in America because we're so hated. You look at all the shit we pulled here as America in the last, since 2011. The unnecessary invasion of Iraq and the deposition of Saddam Hussein. Then we went into Afghanistan. And it was funny. The U.S. soldiers were protecting the opium crops from the Talibasters. Taliban didn't want that crop growing. Yet they recorded record harvest every year America was there and flooded the world with heroin. So, when Joe Biden got into office, he withdrew from Afghanistan, and that was a debacle. A debacle! A debacle. He couldn't get the Americans out, couldn't get the troops out. He left $80 billion worth of equipment in the hands of our enemies. And this stuff is being spread all over the Middle East. The Chinese came in and took over our airports with all the equipment that we had there. Fuel depots, hangars for their planes. We gave it all to him. Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, the greatest president America's ever had. And, the Biden's talking war. He just wants war. All his advisors, they want war. Victoria Nuland, who instigated the coup d'etat in Ukraine in 2014, she's now second in charge of the State Department. And Anthony Blinken, he's an inept fool. Now, I always pose this question to myself, and it might be relevant, maybe not. I tried getting the information on the internet, but I couldn't find any links that would give me a definitive answer. But how much of the State Department is made up of Jews? Graduates of Harvard and Yale and all the Ivy League universities. They are flocking to the State Department like the moths to a light. And they'll find them a position there. They're good students, And the thing is, now we have Israel running the U.S. State Department. That's what it comes down to, in my opinion. I'm not saying that to be controversial, but if you look at the facts, I think you might come up to the same conclusion. But nobody talks about this. Nobody would do an in-depth investigation or find out what the deal is and who's connected to who. And, what their ties are to Israel. These wealthy families, they can afford to send their children, their offspring, to the Ivy League universities, which are very expensive, very competitive to get in, by the way. I mean, I did have one Oriental guy, an Asian fellow, who sued one of the universities because even though he had terrific test scores and was a straight A student, they still wouldn't grant him admittance. But then they granted admittance to less qualified blacks, just so they could get their diversity numbers up, so it would be equitable. I think he won his lawsuit, and I don't know what he's doing now, but that story always stuck in my mind. Now, the thing is, we've had these insiders in the Biden administration who'll do anything to make a buck for themselves. You know, they get the insider trades like Nancy Pelosi took advantage of, Dianne Feinstein, and all these big shot senators and congressmen. And President Joe Biden, the greatest president America's ever had. He's on the bribery patrol. Millions from China, millions from the mayor of Moscow, millions from the oligarchs in Ukraine. He's got money coming out of his ears, all paid for by bribes. They just do him a little favor, put in good word for him. And, when you're president, you have a lot of power and influence. And people, you mention something to somebody, they got to get it done for you. And if you don't, the gravy train's over. They're back on the street, living at home with mom and dad in their basement. So, I mean, it's a terrible thing that he's betrayed America and his fellow Americans. He needs to pay for this. I'm sorry. They get that speaker in the House, and they need to get those impeachment hearings jump-started and go after this guy. He's dirty. He's scum. Well, these are my opinions. I'm sorry they're harsh, and you may not agree with them, but if you look at the facts and explode some truth bombs under your butt, you'll get the idea. The Democrats never won a war they didn't like. They're always into foreign intervention. They want to pick a fight with anybody. And then, they want to give more tax money from Americans. They want to implement a national sales tax of 3.5% to 5%. That's, a lot of your income to pay for things you need. And you're going to be paying through the nose and the throat with states that already have high income taxes like New York and California. You could essentially be paying a 17% sales tax on the stuff you purchase, everything you purchase, food, clothing, all your toys, your electronics, your Apple iPhone, and your fancy computers, and just make the cost go up sky high. But they need the money because the Treasury has been depleted by these con men who fleeced the Treasury, dipped their hands in there, and took all that money so they could fight these idiotic wars. And yet, we are so unprepared as a country right now because of their behavior and their actions that we'll be paying the price for a couple of generations. All because of Joe Biden and his idiotic administration. I mean, he's a piece of crap, that guy. Well, if it comes right down to it, and we have to fight terror cells and sleeper cells here in America, we're going to go hunting for them. And we just get that terrorist hunting license off of eBay, and they give us carte blanche to go after them. We'll search every corner of every attic and basement in the country. And we're going to out these guys. We're going to take them out. Because they think they can come into this country and cause terror and havoc. Whether you were a father, you had 4 or 5 children, and you get the message that your wife's been filleted, your children have been beheaded and their little hands and feet cut off, chopped off by some idiotic religious kook. who hates America. You know, the depths of the depravity of these religious kooks knows no limits. They go to the bottom of the barrel. They're giving themselves a ticket to hell. Yet they have no moral compass, no sense of right and wrong and good and evil. They're just evil. Now listen, it's pretty bad when we have looking at wars against Iran, Russia, Ukraine, Russia with the nukes, the North Koreans, and maybe in South American countries, Venezuela. They want to get the oil experts in there to get the oil wells up and running so they can make some money. But what would happen if Biden went into Iran and strafed all their oil fields, cut off all their oil production? You would see gas go up to $8 or $10 a gallon. There would be panic in the country because we'd have to, you have to ship everything everywhere, get it delivered. And the price of fuel would just make consumer goods unaffordable for anybody. Already unaffordable. Food's gone up so high. During the first year and a half of the Ukraine war, nearly 500,000 young Ukrainian men in the prime of their lives were shot down by the Russians. It was a bloodbath, a meat grinder. But I gotta hand it to those guys. They're freaking brave. And because they're fighting for their country. And we did whatever they could do to contribute. Now there's insurrections going on among the troops. They're surrendering to the Russians. Now, whatever propaganda that you hear about the Russians, they do treat the Ukrainian boys pretty good. They give them respect and give them fresh clothes, food, showers, that kind of thing. It's not like they're hated enemies where they'll go, haywire on them, and next thing you know, they come out of the country like that one American who tried to steal a propaganda poster in North Korea. They let him out, and he got back to America. He was dead a week later. They just pummeled that guy. They tortured him, bashed his brains in him, bashed his vital organs in until he was. I can't believe he even lived through the trip back to America. They gave him up because, our diplomatic corps worked it out. It's too bad they couldn't get him out a couple of weeks after he got in instead of having to go through life and hard labor and being experimented on by these sadistic North Koreans. They're North Koreans. They're tiny people. Their lack of nutrition for 3 or 4 generations have turned them into dwarves. They're skinny. They weigh 80, 90 pounds. They're all sinew and muscle. They eat grass and bark just to survive. I mean, that's what a totalitarian dictatorship does to its own people. They don't care about them. The hell with them. And this is the facts of life here in 2023, October 24th, 2023. And we need to face the facts instead of living in Fantasy Island. Boss, the plane boss. Thank you, Tattoo. Thank you. That means they have a new group of Tourons coming onto the island, and Ricardo Montalban, he's going to change their lives forever by showing them love and affection and he's going to make them happy. Now, what if our various governments try to make people happy, and instead of always, you know, steeping them in fear and anger? When you look at these pro-Palestinian protest marches all over the world, Europe, New York, Memphis, Chicago, Minneapolis, San Francisco, Oakland, LA, these people are coming out in a mob of thousands of people chanting "Death to Israel, death to Jews." I mean, the hate for the Jewish people in today's world is just incomprehensible after everything that they went through back during World War II. There used to be a big population of Jews in Poland back during World War II. But a lot of them got sent to the concentration camps or gassed and cremated. The little girls snatched from their families and forced on a train to these concentration camps, and they were killed within 1 or 2 days of arrival. I mean, we're a sick species if we do this to each other. But what's really bothersome is when these mobs of people get out there, and they can be uncontrolled once you get one of them fired up, and you trigger them with something, they're going to go haywire and commit arson and rape and loot and pillage and plunder. Just like what happened after George Floyd died in 2020. There's the biggest con job the media, the compliant media, ever pulled. It caused hundreds of cities to burn. A lot of people got killed. A lot of policemen killed and injured because they made up a storyline that George Floyd was strangled to death by the cops. They had his knee on his neck. They died of asphyxiation. But a review of the autopsy has come out and said he had no damage on his throat. He was under the influence of an extremely high dose of fentanyl and methamphetamine and cocaine, as well as marijuana. And, they had all these riots protesting against the police and shit. They wanted to give him sainthood. St. George Floyd. But the result of his death was because of his own behavior. It wasn't the police. The police confronted him because he was trying to buy a pack of cigarettes with counterfeit money. In the store manager, they called the cops over and said, "Hey, we got this guy trying to pass phony bills. Why don't you come over here and help us out?" Then when they got him outside the store, they're shaking him down, frisking him. You know what pops out of one of his pockets? A plastic baggie, a tiny one full of dope. And those have been recorded and documented. And then he became unruly. And when you're unruly, the cops have only one thing to do is to get you restrained and under control. Because when you're unruly, you could go haywire and do a lot of damage. So taking control of that person in that situation is of utmost importance for the law enforcement agents. What are you going to do? Let some 6'3", 280-pound criminal go haywire and go crazy on you? Then the call came for defund the police in the cities that they did it in Seattle. Seattle police force is down about 600 or 700 from their full complement. Crime's out of control. People have no respect for the cops. They're lawbreakers and criminals, and they don't care. You know, it just drives me nuts. It drives me nuts. It really does. But, you know, and I found out that whole story about George Floyd was fabricated. It just pissed me off. Because for months, we had these black mobs just tearing through the cities, yelling, "Burn, baby, burn!" Yep. A bunch of ingrates, you know, belly achers. And they didn't even believe that his death was a result of an overdose, but it's true. Now, where are we going to go from here? What happens if not George, Joe, our greatest president ever, Joe Biden, he's the greatest. He's going to go down in history bigger than George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Abe Lincoln. But Joe Biden, he's got a lot of stuff on his plate. And it's all about his own personal behavior and taking money so he can buy mansions on the Delaware shore and drive around collectible cars, Corvettes. You know, give money to his son, Hunter. Yes, Hunter is so special. I'm a pornographer, drug addict, and I hire hookers, and I do whatever I want because I'm Hunter Biden. I'm President Joe's son, and he's the greatest president in the U.S. You know, I just fussing out, man. So where do we go from here? What if Joe starts nuclear war? Once he deploys those babies and authorizes their use, it's a fucking over, man. We're getting struck back by Chinese and Russian hypersonic missiles. A lot of them will be launched right off the coast lines of America. So you got a 3-minute warning, if that. No, I mean, he's got to be very careful on how he's trading on this because it's fraught with danger. The ramifications are unknown. And if it gets to that point, you might as well kiss your ass goodbye because you'll be living in caves and eating rat meat and snakes and ants. They like the Biden administration wants to have food made of insects to feed us so they don't have to grow cows anymore because they put out too much methane gas. How idiotic are these people? You know, the other thing is they want everybody to convert to electric. That's the biggest scam ever. Nothing wrong with it. Diesel or gasoline engine. Some of these advances they made in the technology on these internal combustion engines are fantastic. The mileage is great. They burn clean. And they serve a great purpose. You don't have to worry about charging it up every 200 miles. You just fill it up and go. So, you know, we're being ruled by idiots and retards and psychopaths. And it's a shame, damn it. It's a real shame. I better cool down my jets. Cool the reactors. Get the water in the reactors. Get them cooled down. So I need to cool my reactors here. And we'll just tell you, little babies, that Dr. Matey loves you. I hope you love me back. And, you know, we can talk again. This stuff really fires me up because Americans are so complacent and out of touch, they have no idea what's going on. And we're in a life-threatening situation. We are not a strong country militarily anymore. 40% of the service people are overweight. They're fat. They're obese. They're out of shape. You know, you can't fight a war with forces that are out of shape and overweight. They're probably using drugs too, you know. I know the military has zero tolerance policy for drugs. And I would venture to say most of the soldiers and sailors and airmen, they're pretty straight shooters. And they want to do the best they can, even if they are chubby. So we need to get some discipline back in this country. We need to regain control of our culture. The culture has been decimated by these left wing anarchists who teach at the colleges and university and hate America. That's what they teach. That's their curriculum, hate America. Because America is responsible for everything that's bad in the world. So I'll just leave it at that. Now listen, I went out and caught some perches today, and I got 2 walleyes, and I got a largemouth bass. I caught 5 fish. I cleaned them up. I put them in the freezer. You know, I'll have them for dinner here in the next few days, next week or so. But it's a lot of fun. I use minnows and worms and lures. Today, the minnows seem to work the best. So I had a successful day out and about. I was only out for 2 hours and reeled in 5 nice fish. I love cooking up those fish because they're so delicious when they're seasoned up right. And my favorite is deep battered perch. You get the right batter mix on there, you fry them up, and put a little ketchup and tartar sauce and cocktail sauce on them. And, oh man, you think you died and went to heaven. All right, well, listen, I am thankful for the little I have. And I try to be humble. And I want you to do the same. Be happy with what you have. And try to be humble. And pray to God. God answers your prayers, believe it or not. Even when you don't think He's answering your prayers, He will, in some fashion, answer your prayers. So don't give up on God. All right, little babies. Bye-bye. I love you. And see you again, okay? Bye-bye.